Baruch atah Asherah Anat Melech HaOlam Asher Kinetani B'Tzvotav V'tzivani Li'yidati V'Tzitzit. Hey, good morning.
You didn't put it on?
I'm putting it on.
Oh, you say for that one?
I say for all of them, not just the special one, because they, I listened to a podcast by Emma June that said that any piece of fabric with fringes can count as tzitzit. You just have to say the prayer, and I trust them because they're queer. And they made a podcast about the fabrics. This cat.
Yeah, you're poking the worms out of my butt.
Are you still sick, huh? Yeah. Good morning, Chloe. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another installation of We're Here Together Doing This Thing. We're going to say some old words from various traditions. We're going to say some words from the book of Deuteronomy. And then we'll say some words from the book of Atrahasis, which is Mesopotamia. And then we will say some words from the Bhagavad Gita. And then we'll close up with some grief. No, I don't live in Portland. But, you know, there's 8 billion people in the world, and I imagine at least one of them looks very similar to me.
There are not 8 billion people.
There are 8 billion people in the world.
What?
Let's look it up. How many people are in the world? Oh, you're right. There's only 7.75 billion.
Yeah. That's more than I thought, though.
Well, maybe it's in that 0.25 billion that my doppelganger exists, and I have to wait for them to be born. Okay. All right. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et Anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר נורכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך v'chaya ki v'achaya Elohecha el ha'artz asher nisba levotecha le'avram li'yitzchak Yaakov לתת לך עברים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית, ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילת, אורות עצבים אשר לא עשת, כהרים וזיתים אשר לא נתת, והלכת ושבת, הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר תשכח מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. Chicago, I cannot sing Yerushalayim because I do not have the lyrics to that song. I've probably heard it, right? Like, I certainly know what Jerusalem is. If you check out the link in my bio, you can find a link to my Discord server. You can go onto the Discord server, and in the live stream chat, you can post a link to that song, and I will learn it for you. I promise. I promise I will. Hello, who are you? Read the Quran, girl. We'll help you. I'm sure I would love to read the Quran, Zach. One day I will. One day I will learn Arabic, and then I will read the Quran, and I will find it very uplifting. I'm sure. I don't mean that facetiously. I mean, like, maybe you mean it facetiously. It's difficult to know someone's tone in a chat like this. But, like, I genuinely would love to read the Quran if I had the linguistic capacity to do so. Good morning, pal. How are you? Happy Friday. Shabbat shalom. What are you up to today, pal? So, what shall we do? We're going to read from Atrahasis, right? This is this story about the flood. And yesterday we read the most iconic part of the whole story, right? The part that most closely resembles the story that we are familiar with, where Atrahasis built a great ark, and then there was waters, and then the ark landed on the mountains, and then he sent out a dove, and then he sent out a raven. And there were some critical details, different, in that rather than Yahweh sending a rainbow, instead it was a maternity goddess who gave a necklace of lapis lazuli. And I think that's pretty cool. That the role of Yahweh in the old Genesis story is actually more anciently fulfilled by a goddess of childbirth. I think that's really great and cute. Maybe we'll read that section. Wow, you're so helpful and kind.
Yes, who are you?
Am I?
You're letting two known COVID positive people hang out in your room when you're not sick.
She wants to get it.
Yeah, I want to get it.
So, you can't read. You're not fluent in Hebrew, but you read the Torah, so why do you need to be fluent in Arabic to read the Quran?
That's true. I could read a translation in English. You got me.
I'm not trying to get you, I just am confused.
I would really like to learn Arabic. And I mean, there's an interesting thing about the Quran, like that's the language it was written. I mean, I guess the Torah is also languages written. I don't know.
The Torah was not written in English.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just like, I don't get it.
I would like to learn Arabic.
I get wanting to learn Arabic. I do. Okay.
Like I don't have a framework to study Islam in, right? Like at all.
Yes. Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. Yeah.
And if I
have a framework for the Torah because you're Jewish and
yeah.
because you grew up going to temple. And
yeah.
It's what your family comes from. And
yeah.
You have that context.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
But if I wanted, and like I could study the New Testament because I'm American, right? But I feel like to study the Quran, I would need to be in a Muslim context.
Okay.
And the easiest way for me to be in a Muslim context would be to learn Arabic.
Hey, Muslims can be American too.
That's true.
You said this thing about like I can study the New Testament because I'm American, and I get what you're getting at, but I want to like challenge the religious hegemony.
Fair.
You must be feeling a little better.
You must be feeling a little better if you can challenge the religious hegemony.
Yeah.
Yeah, challenging takes effort.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot. I had to rest for a while after chores. I had to rest for like
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about wanting a context, but like, okay, we should just let you do your stream, not like, lose all your followers, and don't leave people. She's gonna read the story and it's gonna be great.
GoodMorningInsanelyGay.com. That's a great website, I'm sure.
But yeah, there's like tons of Muslims that don't speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And they're still Muslim.
Yes, that's true.
There's Jews that don't speak Hebrew.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that you want to read the Quran and that you want to not read it in a vacuum or like just throw your American lens all over it. You're like, and by American I mean like white, Judeo-Christian, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sick. Okay, just go for it.
Good morning, Christian.
Just go for it.
My day was not as sad as expected, although it did tank my productivity for sure. I wrote one sentence in my thesis yesterday, but I wasn't in a terrible mood, although I do chew on those conversations in my mind for a lot longer than I should. That's for sure.
The S word.
The S word? Should? Oh, should is not a useful framework.
Like that.
Okay. I like having a peanut gallery. Did you know? I mean, it's a little funny because I don't think either of you are hearable.
I probably am hearable.
You're probably hearable on Facebook, but you're probably not hearable on TikTok.
Oh, because the mic, your phone mic is TikTok, and
Yes.
the mic is Facebook.
Yes.
Maybe it's better because we're poking a lot of holes in you.
You're poking a lot of holes in my performance.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear her? I don't know if you can hear her or not. Doesn't really matter. We're just.
Better if you care.
It's better if you can't. She's a little mumbling, but she's questioning my my ethnocentric views of religion and ethnicity and language, and you know, as you should. Okay. So anyway, we can read the part of the story of Atrahasis where the midwife goddess gives a promise never to flood the world again. And she says, "What could have come over Anu to make this decision? And does Elil have no shame coming to savor the smoke? Without consideration of the two of them sent down a flood and brought the people to a sad and sorry destruction. They agreed to cause their desire and pitiless obliteration. Now their shining faces will never look to the sun." So she approached the great flies which Anu had fashioned. "From now on, man's burden which will be a burden which I share. From now on, his fate will no longer be separated from my own. He must now save me from any harm by offering sacrifice, and so let me rise every day in the morning for his sake. Recognize, O God, that I will never forget this calamity. May these big flies become lapis lazuli upon my necklace. I will eternally recall and never forget what happened here."
That's what you read yesterday.
Yeah, I'm rereading it because I thought it was really cool because it's not Yahweh and a rainbow. It's a goddess and a necklace.
About ice caps melting and global sea rise because they promised they wouldn't put us out again.
Yeah, because a lady wore a really pretty necklace made out of flies. Yep, that's the story. Then Eliel, the warrior, caught his first sight of the cargo boat, and he was stomping mad from his elevated ire at the Igigi. "Every one of us, of the great Anuna, swore to carry this out. We agreed there would not be one thing left alive on earth. So how is it that any man was able to survive this disaster?" Anu raised his voice to be heard, speaking to the warrior Eliel. "There are none among the gods but Enki who would do so. He made it so that the reed hut betrayed our plans beforehand." Enki raised his voice to be heard, speaking to the high gods. "Yes, it was I who did it, and thus did it against your wishes. Since I worked to guarantee life was saved, not extinguished, I had this man construct the boat and take others with him, to save all manner of life on earth, and to return them safely. The one who does wrong is blameworthy for his own wrongs, and he who commits a crime is culpable for his own crimes. Thus I am not opposed to the exacting of any punishments. Rather, if any man acts contrarily to your commandments, then by all means exact due punishment for the offender, or against anyone else who contravenes your holy statutes. If you have cause for complaint, then make your case justly. Exact your punishments with equanimity and without ire, that a man may not suffer when not guilty of wrongdoing. Rather have his numbers be reduced by the lion and wolf. Rather have his numbers be reduced by famine and plague. Rather have his numbers be reduced by war and invasion. Only that you not bring destruction to every one of them. Only that you may never suffer the extinction from a flood. Thus the gods will not be known for their maliciousness, except they totally are. Then man will continue to make his offerings to the gods. Yet if he continues to act against your will, then so be it. And bring punishments to the ones who sin against you, but only exacting punishment where punishment is due. There, I have now said everything that I wish to convey. And Eliel raised his voice to be heard, speaking to the wise Enki. Then let us go, and bring the womb goddess Nintu to us, and we will hold a conference together at the meeting hall. Good morning, Cat Calibri. Yeah, it's been months. Where you been? Where have I been? I've been here. But, life changes. Things get complicated. So, Enki's like, yeah, I told Atrahasis there was going to be a flood. I told him that he should build an ark. And Nintu and me, we were thinking that you were dumb in sending a really big flood. And you can punish us if you think that is what you should do, but we still think your idea was bad. And then we'll see what happens. And he's probably going to get punished. I don't actually know what happens. We've got one more page to go, so we'll finish the story tomorrow. And that will conclude our reading of Atrahasis, the Noah before Noah. So, what's next? Next I have to blow my nose.
Can you sing us a song?
Yeah, I'll sing you a song. What song should I sing?
The other night, you don't sing that one.
That one's dangerous. That song got you sick.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. What was I reading? You probably haven't heard any of it. Loki saved them? Yes. Yes, Loki saved them. Except in this story, his name is Enki, not Loki, but basically the same god. Yeah, Enki told Atrahasis, you could build an ark and you could put some animals in it, and then you wouldn't die from the terrible flood. And then Nintu was like, oh, why'd you do that, you terrible man gods? I'm gonna fasten my fate to these humans instead of you Anunnaki. And then the man gods, Eliel and Anu, they're like, what is this? We tried to kill everybody, but now there's still people here? I'm so upset. And Enki was like, they didn't deserve it. If anybody should be punished, it should be me. And he has this whole speech about, justice and punishing people proportionate to the crime and blah, blah, blah. And so then Enki and Nintu are going to be put on trial by the high gods, and that will be the end of the story. So, Cat Calibri, this is, the story is called Atrahasis, and it is a Mesopotamian precursor to the story of Noah that we see in the book of Genesis, right? There's also an ark, and there's birds that get let out in the wake of the flood. But the framing of the Atrahasis story is very different, right? The reason isn't that men are sinners, it's that men are loud. And Enlil wants to sleep at night, and he can't sleep, and so he's like, I'm just going to send a giant flood, and that'll fix all of the problems. Because,
I would do that.
you would do that?
Can you break the house's plumbing?
If I really wanted to sleep and it was loud, I would
You would destroy all of humanity?
go to some lengths to be able to sleep. I need my sleep.
You generally put in earplugs.
Loud is a sin. Yeah, Sam. Hi, Sam. Hi, how are you? I mean,
The house is a sin.
I think it's interesting, right? So both of the stories that are in this book, right? So this is the Enuma Elish, right? So you've got the Babylonian creation myth, and then they added Atrahasis into this collection. It's just two stories in this tiny little book, and I think the reason why they added them together is that the motivating conceit is that there are some lower creations, lower divinities that are being too loud, right? That's why Tiamat decides that she's going to kill everybody, is because they're too loud. And that's also why the gods decide to send the big flood. And that's right. It's not nearly as moralized as what we see later in the Israelite texts, where it's because they're sinners, right? They hadn't really invented the concept of sin 4,000 years ago. It took another 2,000 years to get that concept put together. But yes, loud is a sin. That's basically the construction.
Is sin just doing something God says not to do?
I suppose
Say
so.
Quiet, and then you're not quiet. It's sin.
Yeah.
I imagine it's more complicated than that. I imagine it's like the law. law is not actually so black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There are some laws that are like, thou shalt not steal and whatever, but then there's some laws that are like, thou shalt file the 1065 the subsequent K1s on the third day of the moon rising or whatever.
On the third day of the moon.
But so like you're trying, and there's different
Yeah.
and there's all sorts of legal scholars with different opinions about what the rules are, and sometimes God still fines you $4,200.
Yes, sonic neighbor disputes are as old as time and beyond the mortal plane itself. Exactly. Do you have some very loud neighbors, Sam? I imagine you were probably the loud neighbor. Playing piano all night long. What you doing? Get off my lawn.
Wait, that Sam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sam is on the stream.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Sam that has a cat play the piano?
Yes, the Sam that has the cat play the piano. That's true.
I liked it.
You got in trouble for practicing whistling at your last place.
Oh my god, that's funny.
I'm so sorry. But they should know that your whistling is divine. And why should anyone be upset with you whistling? Because they're trying to sleep.
People are just singing in the middle of the night all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm gonna see if I have any Sudafed in my room.
I think now it's time for Arati. So, the word Arati means flame in Sanskrit, or light. Mr. Jacob Toe, you are the only troll that I tolerate, and that's basically all I say about you. Kat, I ignored your comment, but yes, it's the same story as Noah. It's just older. And I think that's pretty cool. So, now we're going to go to a totally different place in the world. Right, so this story is 4,000 years old from southern Iraq. Now we're going to read a 2,000-year-old prayer from southern India. This is an excerpt from the Bhagavad Gita. It's a lot newer. Actually, it's much newer because it was modified by a man named Shivananda who was alive in the 1950s. Feet, addiction is really hard, and I don't think that it's specifically a you problem, right? Like, it has to do with your social circumstance and the people around you and the stories people are telling you. Right, like what defines a problem is contingent on so many things, right? So like, change your circumstances and the problem will change, won't go away, but it will be a different problem. You might not label it an alcohol problem in the different circumstances. You might label it a loneliness problem. But I have addiction problems myself, and maybe I have paternal problems myself. It's difficult to say.
I'm just saying, you don't smoke nearly as much weed as Peach, and Peach doesn't have a problem.
That's very true. I mean, I haven't smoked weed in quite some time. But it's still a problem in my brain, right? But that's the thing, is I don't, like, how do you define problems? Like, other people define your problems. Georgie, that is by design, right? Like, I'm selling an image of myself to you, and that image is designed to be appealing. So I'm glad you find it appealing. Don't think you need to be perplexed by it. Like, it's okay. I'm a product. I'm a social media product made in this screen for you. Good morning, Jolie. How is your new job? You're taking a break from work. It's really nice to see you. There's a lot of friends in this stream today. That is my goal, Dr. Punk. Like, quite explicitly. Quite explicitly. And I do an okay job. An openings and closings break. No, I don't catch your drift. feel like that's a reference that I ought to get, but I've missed it. If it's not something you want to type in the chat, you can let me know some other way if you feel like it. The opening and closing prayer. Okay. That's fair. Hi. Hi. It makes me really happy when you're here. So, let's say Arati. Let's say Arati. Good morning, Kate. How are you doing today? Everyone's arrived. Everyone's arrived in time for the fire prayer. Let's do the fire prayer. It goes like this. Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankata Harana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sada Shiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimutri Vatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Samine Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Guru Bho Namaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Natatra Suyobati Natandrakaratam Nima Vidyobati Kutayamagni Tvameva Bantamanavanti Sarvam Tasya Basya Samidam Vivanti Om Gange Kayamune Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Siddhika Veriya Namastitam Namo Namaha Tvameva Mata Japita Tvameva Tvameva Bandusha Saka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Javinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Kayena Vacha Manasindriyarva Buddhyatmanava Prakriti Sabhavad Karom Yad Mangalam Prasmahe Narayana Hiti Sarmar Payami Savadamam Pravichaya Mamikam Savanam Rija Aham Svasara Papayo Mokshayami Masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, mind, speech, nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. Thank you. Who? To you. Specifically to you, because I want you to get better, and I will give you my life energy. I'll give you my blood and my bones.
No.
Is that too gruesome?
Too much. I want you to be alive and healthy too.
Okay. Jolie, hi. You said many things that I want to respond to. Yeah, you don't know the language, but you know exactly what it says. I feel exactly the same way, right? Like, I do give some sort of, like, partial translation, right? Like, Jai means praise, or, like, Jai, it's like, hooray, right? And Arati means light, and then we just have a name of a god, or a priest, or a guru, or a prophet, right? So, like, the prayer itself is not actually that challenging to translate. But I do think that there's something to be said for praying in holy languages or like in dead languages. Oh, you meant the language Kaedete. Yeah, that is true. Right, but you knew they were asking what is this because of context, right? Like there's a lot of meaning that comes not from syntax but from context. And I think that's really cool. That meaning can be found in all those different places. I'm sorry to hear that you are going through a breakup. I assume that is why you asked that question. Um, I'm not terribly surprised to hear it because, like, your life just changed so crazy dramatically from what it was, 6 months ago, even. And, like, like, I think most of the time when relationships end, it's not because, like, the people are necessarily incompatible, like, in some sort of, like, personality types chemistry sort of way. Like, I think with people, if people are together, they're together for reasons, and those reasons um they're consistent, right? But it's more that like life circumstances change or long-term goals change or diverge. And like it wouldn't, it's not surprising to me. I mean, it happened to me, right? Like I had a breakup right after I graduated from college too. I happened to still be with that human, but that was because we both ended up changing in a similar direction, and so it made sense to resume the relationship after those life questions had been sorted out. But like, I do think that is more important. Um, like, uh, being in relationship with someone else isn't just about who you are or who they are. It's also about the circumstances that you are in together and the circumstances that you want to build together. Um, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's like it's not your fault or it's not anyone's fault, and it's not like it's just fault is not a useful framework. Yes, that one. That's a little trope, right? But like, it's really easy to blame personality, to blame their personality, to blame your personality. Like, oh, that thing they did was really annoying. But like, that's a symptom, right? Like, actually, what it is that the world is really big and complicated, and finding a place in it is not trivial, and finding a place in it with someone else is doubly not trivial. Um, and like, often physical geographical circumstances, economic circumstances matter way 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 more than whether the personalities are a right fit.
Why are we together?
Why are we together? Because we live in the same place and we share a wall,
Yeah.
and we're nice enough to each other
Yeah.
that it makes sense.
But what happens if I leave or if you leave?
Then we would break up.
It's okay.
It would be okay, and it wouldn't mean that you treated me bad
No.
or that we were wrong for each other.
No.
Whatever that means. What does that mean? I mean, I guess people can be wrong for each other, right? Like, you can have...
You do treat each other poorly.
Yeah.
You do have toxic relationships. That is real, and you shouldn't minimize it.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily why...
It's not every story.
Yeah.
In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I hope that there are a minority of stories.
Yeah, and I doubt it's what's happening here, right? Like, yeah. Will me and Rachel get married? Very likely. Yeah. What I tell her is once we have enough housing that we can throw a big party at our commune, because right now we don't have the infrastructure to have a big party, and I don't want to get married if we can't have a big party. I mean, what's the point? I guess to have kids, but that's like have to go to a doctor and get surgery to have kids because we're too queer for doing it the regular way anymore. So it goes. Commenting was weird, but you were moderating. You're getting rid of all the transphobes, and I appreciate that. Yeah, Jolie. Your life is at a very particular place, right? Like you like I think you've experienced more change in your life in the last year than you will probably experience in any other year of your life. Like maybe that's not true. Like maybe there will be some gigantic calamity that happens. But you know, I all I can speak is from my own experience, and definitely when I was 22 or 23 or the year after graduating, I experienced more change than any other point in my life. So that's why I say that. Gosh, the trolls are out in force this morning. I wonder why. TikTok just contacted me yesterday. They invited me to do some like live group thing. You've killed 3. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing a special stream on Tuesday. I'm going to give a farm tour because everyone always asks for a farm tour and I never can justify it. But like they're highlighting my account in some page, and I think that means that I've shifted in their algorithmic framework, and so now more trolls are finding me. That's my story about it. May or may not be true. But yeah, there'll be a farm tour on Tuesday afternoon if you want to see what's growing. Yeah, you thought you'd be able to navigate transition together, but you can't control one another, and those transitions are really hard. I mean, they're like, I think about that a lot with people in this community. Like, I look at relationships in this community, I'm like, oh, well, it's not like, I think y'all should break up, but it's not because you're bad for each other. It's just that, like, you have your whole lives to live, and you gotta make big decisions about it, and those big decisions might not gel with what you each need in a long-term sense. Yes, pal, if I had kids, we would have them here, and we'd have to make some pretty significant changes to what here looks like in order for there to be children. But those changes will probably get made at some point. Or they won't, and my life will be different. You can't make predictions. Don't worry about it, Kate. If you can't tell, then they probably shouldn't be muted. Yeah, the trolls, they get cryptic. But I'll tolerate cryptic trolls. So. What kind of job did he have? He was probably working late nights, and you weren't. Yeah, like, those sort of things, it's just, like, they're economic realities that structure people's time and attention. And those constraints are real, and they're powerful. And we would like to think that they don't matter because they're not us, right? They're outside of us, and they're, like, unjust in this, like, terrible systemic way. But, like, they nonetheless have a really dramatic impact on the flexibility we have to communicate with one another. Yeah. So... I haven't thought that far in advance, pal. It's years away. Years away. So, look at that walking Amanita. You did miss the ancient text, Sydney. Yeah, we read the last bit of Atrahasis, and we will have one more day of reading Atrahasis before the story ends. What am I going to cook my community for Shabbat? I'm not going to cook them anything today because my community has COVID. I probably have COVID. I just haven't taken a test because I want to live in ignorance. But my partners are both actively COVID positive right now, and I'm not isolating from them, which means that I'm not going to be preparing anybody food today because I don't want to... Except for you. Yes, I'll make you food in the rice cooker. Medical sales, end of quarter, grief time? I don't understand the joke, Dr. Punk, but yes, it is grief time. Yeah, so I'm stuck in this room, which is basically what my life is every day. Like, every day I spend it basically isolated in this room. There's just a slightly stronger barrier. I think I'm actually pretty well suited for COVID.
You're less isolated now because I'm always in there.
It's true, I'm not isolated. It's you and me and the virus. We're all snuggling up together. Yeah, so it's grief time. I would love to see you more often, Jolie. I really would. I appreciate your presence in this stream so much. It's very easy to talk with you. TikTok is really up on the memes. Now they've got a corn gif to send. It's corn. It's got the juice. What a joke. What a joke. I'm quite confident that the only reason that video went viral is because there are so many sex workers on this app. I think if the sex workers weren't there, that video would not have the traction that it has.
Can you show me your corn cup?
Yeah, that one too. Okay, so it's grief time. I guess grief time can be corn time. That's acceptable. So the word Kaddish means sacred or holy. Actually, it also means sex worker. Kiddusha is a word. It shows up in the Old Testament like 50 times, and it's related to sacred and refers to this goddess here riding on the back of a lion, arousing Egyptian gods. I say the same things every day. Y'all are probably really bored of me just repeating myself endlessly, but then I justify it by like saying that there's this prayer that asks me to repeat myself endlessly, and I'm just doing what Yahweh said, right? Anyway, Kaddish means holy, and we're gonna say Kaddish. But it's another one of these meaning things, right? Like if you actually look at the literal meaning of the mourner's Kaddish, there's nothing about mourning in it at all. It's like, God is great, God is glorious, the kingdom of heaven is here, and we're all gonna bask in his greatness. But somehow, through context, that prayer has turned into a prayer of grief. I think that's really interesting the way that meaning works. So we can, excuse me, we can take a moment here together to grieve publicly. Because I do think that grief, intense sadness, is an emotion that is best processed in a group. And we have this tiny little intimate group here today and every day, and it's good to take a minute or two out of our lives and remember what we have lost. Remember what we're missing and recognize that loss. And also recognize the things that we want to let go of but can't. The relationships that are still here but not working. And the relationships that did work that are no longer here. And everything in between.
That weren't working and aren't here anymore.
That too. The relationships that weren't working and aren't here. We can grieve those too anyhow. So we can say these words together, these very old words that people have been saying for thousands of years. And in so doing, be here. So, for the last 2,500 years, give or take, my ancestors have said these words in response to death. So we can say them again together. Yidgadal, Yidgadash, Shema Rabbah. Bialma Divrach Yote Viamlich Malchute. B'chayachon of Yomechon of Chayedekol Beit Yisrael. Bagala Vizman Kari Vimru. Amen. Yehe Shema Rabbah Mevarach Lialam Omei Omaya. Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitba'ar V'Irmam Vitnase. Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shema Dekudisha Barichu. Leila Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushvichata V'Nechemata. Diamiran Bialma Vimru. Amen. Yehe Shlamar Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Yachol Yisrael Vimru. Amen. O Se Shalom V'Mirmav Huya Ase Shalom Aleinu V'Yachol Yisrael Vimru. Amen. O Se Shalom V'Mirmav Huya Ase Shalom Aleinu V'Yachol Yisrael Vimru. Vimru. Amen. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, we'll be here tomorrow to say these words once more. I hope you will join me. If you would like to support this live stream and support the work that we are doing here together, one of the best ways to do that is to go check out the link in my bio. You can subscribe on Patreon or leave a one-time tip if that's more your style. Or you can subscribe on TikTok and post lots of gifs of Ouroboroses and mushrooms if that's what you like to do. But it really does make a difference to know that you all hear and you all care. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Later. Better late than never, Kivi. I will see you tomorrow, Dr. Punk. I'm glad I brightened up your day, Shannon. And you too have a gorgeous day, Chumba. Yeah, so all of you, I will see you tomorrow. And until then, have a lovely day. Okay, Very well.